Hello and welcome to Automating Your Strategy in Spider Impact. Many companies track their performance, but without an online solution. When they do, their strategy is out of focus, it gets discussed, but not executed, as there's often a lack of alignment and accountability between organizational levels and strategic goals. Many companies leverage Excel spreadsheets, others use PowerPoint, and some use both. This creates hundreds of hours of work for their employees, producing an end result that is static in nature. Without one version of the truth, important actions can be delayed, misguided, or even invalid. To help illustrate this, I'll be using a fictitious company named Mobile World. For years, they struggled to manage their performance manually using Excel and PowerPoint. This is an example of their company strategy map. It looked nice, but it was a maintenance nightmare. Every month, someone needed to manually change all of the coloring for, in this case, 25 boxes. For example, if the financial performance for February was now red, someone would need to click on that box and change the color to red. They would then need to do that for all of the colors on the slide. If performance happened to change after the slide was built, someone would have to alert them and hopefully catch them before the slide was presented to management. Worse yet, this person was also the keeper of all the company's department scorecards, leading to an extreme amount of work monthly. Thankfully, Spider Impact helped remove Mobile World from this monthly nightmare. Spider Impact is an easy-to-use, interactive, online solution. I'll open it up. And see that same PowerPoint slide developed as a dashboard. Better yet, I see all of the dates and colors are updated automatically as I toggle periods. And I'll just switch back to December here and then move forward again to January. Spider Impact helps automate all aspects of a performance management solution. It helps automate the entire organizational structure. And to show that, I'll select Scorecards. I'll expand Mobile World and see that a scorecard can be built not only at a company level, but also for every department, like finance, marketing, and sales. Each department can track all of their KPIs to not only see how they are performing, but also have KPIs that have a company-wide impact linked at a higher level. For example, if I click on Financial, I'll then choose Select. I'll expand Revenue and click on Product Revenue. I now see a value of $447,000 for the month of January. If I click on the briefcase at the top, and then click on Mobile World, choose Select, expand Financial, expand Increase Revenue, and now click on that same product revenue, I'll see the same $447,000. But in this case, I also see a linked symbol next to the name. And this means that the value was actually entered in the financial org, and then automatically it carried over to the company level without a user needing to enter the value twice. Each org can be secured so that is only accessed by the right people. For example, that marketing org that I showed earlier can be locked down to just the marketing team members. And what I'll do to illustrate a little bit of that is I'll select administration in the bottom left here. I'll then click on groups and permissions, and then select the marketing team. And that's the marketing team group. In this group, I see that I currently have two members, Don and Tom. I'm going to click on organization and see that this group has access or has been granted access to just the marketing organization. Outside of maybe myself, who's the system administrator, these two people might be the only people in the entire company with access to the marketing org at all. And right now I'll just select cancel. Spider Impact helps automate the development of a scorecard structure. One option is to build a scorecard manually. And to illustrate that, what I'll do is I'll select scorecards on the left. And I'm going to switch to a blank org that I've created called Automating Your Strategy. And I'll choose Select. My first step is to build this manually. I'm going to click on Create Scorecard. I'm going to provide a name like Scorecard and then choose Create. The first thing that gets populated here is Key Performance Area, and I'm going to type the word Financial. I'll leave everything else alone and choose Create. To build the next level down, which is Objective, I'm going to click on Financial, go to New Scorecard Item, and I'm going to type the words Increase Revenue, and then choose Create again. Now, to build the lowest level, which is KPI, I'm going to click on Increase Revenue, go back to New Scorecard Item, and type Product Revenue. I'll then select Create. Okay, so that is a quick example of how to build up a scorecard manually. Now, what I'm going to do is import a scorecard structure in. And to do that, what I'm going to do is actually delete everything that I just built. So I'm going to go all the way up to the top level, click on Scorecard, and then click Delete 2 times. To import this manually, what I'm going to do is instead of using Create Scorecard, to start things off, I'm going to click on the button beneath that called Import Scorecard Items. Here I'll select Browse. I do need to have an Excel file already built. For the sake of time, I've already done that. That file is called scorecard.csv. I'll click Open, get a quick glimpse of what's going to get imported in, and then I'm just going to click Run Import. And then I'll choose Done. To quickly see everything that was imported, I'll select Expand All and see those items here. Next, Spider Impact also helps automate accountability. Every level of a scorecard structure can be assigned an owner. I'll select Financial, I'll select Edit, and I'll see the Add Owner option. At the KPI level, both an owner and updater can be assigned, and I'll just select Product Revenue. I'll scroll down, and I'll see the Add Owner and Add Updater options. While the owner is responsible for the item's performance, the updater is responsible for entering the data. And I'll just select Done. Spider Impact also helps automate the entry of data. KPIs can be updated manually. For example, in the middle here, I'll select the Update KPI Values option. And for the month of January, I'm going to plug in a value of 470,000. And then click Save. So that's just for 1 month. I could toggle back and forth, but if I wanted to quickly load data across the board here for a number of months, go up to the top here. I'm going to switch this to yearly. And then I'll choose the option called Show Results. I'll go back to that same icon and notice that now I can quickly load numbers, not just for January, but in this case, February through December of 2021. For the sake of time, I'll just click Cancel. And I'm going to toggle back to monthly. and select the option called Back to January 2021. Alternatively, data can be imported from Excel. First, I do need to determine the KPI IDs that were just created when I imported this structure in. To do that, what I need to do is select each KPI, and for now I'm just going to select product revenue. And up at the top, there's an option I for info. I'll click on that, and I'll see that the ID is 7110. And I'll click Close. So I'm going to go to a file that I've got built up. I just need to correct the KPI IDs for those items that I just brought across. And I'm going to merely drop those numbers in. The last one is actually 3 higher than the one before. So if I've typed that incorrectly, I'll hit save at this point. Minimize that file. I'll work my way back to Spider Impact here. Now, up at the top right, there is an import icon that I'll click on here. I do have 2 options, and I've already imported scorecard items using the option that was sitting over here previously. I could do that from this panel. I can also go to the next option, which is called KPI values, and I'll select that. I see there's 2 options. There's an advanced import option, and that will provide a 9-step wizard where I can even transform the data. However, if I just want to import the data as quickly as possible, I'll use the default of simple import, and I'll just go ahead and select next here. The next step, I'll select browse. I'll look for that file that I just manipulated, which is called KPI value import. I'll click open. I will run the import, confirm that something positive happened here, 4 values were imported, and then I'll click done. Last step I'll do here is refresh my screen on the left-hand side there, and I'll see some coloring has come across, and I'll discuss that more in a minute. So that's one option, is to import the data from an Excel file. Alternatively, what I can also do with imports is I can make imports against the database, FTP, or even Google Sheets. And to show that, what I'll do is I'll go down to the administration option at the bottom. I'll select an option called Import Connections. To define a connection, I would select Add Connection next to the appropriate section, Database, FTP, and Google Sheets. Now, I've already defined a connection to a MySQL database, and I've already entered all the parameters like the database name. And for the sake of time, we'll just accept that fact that I've entered all that correctly. Once that's been defined, I can then leverage that connection in an option right above that called imports. And here, for example, I've created an import that will retrieve data from that database, and I've actually limited it down to a particular table using SQL, and there's an option for that under data source info. The other thing that I've done is I've also mapped what's coming from the database to 4 of the KPIs in my Spider Impact system here. Okay, so at this point now, if I've defined all that correctly, what I can do is run that manually, or I can go ahead and have this set to be scheduled to run at a given interval, like monthly. Okay, switching back over to scorecards and to the Automating Your Strategy org. As I alluded to before, I'll see that if I expand all, Spider Impact also helps us automate scoring. You'll see a bunch of red, yellow, green, and even an instance of gray sitting as dots here. Behind the scenes, there are 11 scoring types available that allows those colors to be assigned. And ultimately what happens is that there'll be a normalized scoring range on a 0 to 10 scale here. If I click on product revenue, I'll see that that's in the green. Training revenue is in the yellow. Book revenue is in the red. If I go back to product revenue, I'll see that the actual value is $470,000. And the reason it's in the green is because that actual value is either greater than or equal to our goal of 470,000. If it was 440,000 or less, I would be in the red. If I click total revenue, I see that is in the gray, and this is actually an unscored KPI. Its intent is to sum product, training, and book revenue. And to show that, I'm actually going to do a bit of work here. I'm going to click on Edit down towards the bottom. I'm going to scroll down and I'm going to switch this option from manual to calculated. And then I'm going to click an option called Set Equation. From this panel here, there's a lot I can do. And under type, for instance, I can base this calculation on a number of things. I can even base it on an initiative. For now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave that based on a KPI, and I'm going to select the option called Select a KPI. I'm going to have to navigate to those KPIs as far as those three things in this case that I want to sum up. And to do that, I'm going to quickly do this. I'm going to click on product revenue, click done. That brings it across here. My next step is to click add, and that actually brings it across into the equation. There's a lot of things I can do as far as the calculation. In this case, it's a pretty simple addition. So I'm going to add a plus symbol. I'm going to go back to the KPI, introduce training revenue, click add. Bring in one more plus symbol here, and I'm going to introduce book revenue, click done, and click add. So when I've got everything that I'm looking to sum up, at this point now I'll click done, confirm that here, I'll click save, and then click done. And what I'll notice is that at this point now, Spider Impact has automatically summed up product revenue, training, and book for a value of 730,000 for the month of January. There's also a large number of calculations that I can get into at that panel, things like if then else, but for now I'll keep things nice and simple and leave it at that. Additionally, Spider Impact helps automate communication. In lieu of making a number of phone calls, instant messages, emails, things like that, notes can be made directly within the system and added to the exact location where they're most appropriate. For example, what I'll do here is I'll click on total gross profit. And I'm purposely selecting something that I know is performing extremely poorly. So if we take a look at this here, we see that our actual value for January is 100,000, which is way below what our red goal, what our red value is, which is 200,000. So this might be a good time for me to stop what I'm doing and start communicating with potentially the owner of this particular KPI. And to do that, what I can do is I can click an option called Show Notes. Next step would be to click Add Note, and I could start typing a message. I could get pretty verbose here, but for right now, I can just type what happened, the few question marks, and leave it at that. And I'll select Add Note. At this point, I could now have a running dialogue with the owner. They could come back and start replying to this message, have a nice back and forth with that. For now, though, I'll just click Close to get back to the original display screen there. Now, to help ensure that the system is kept up to date and that key decision makers are notified as soon as possible, I'm going to go into a few options to show you that under Admin, there's an option called Application Administration. And you'll see here that Spider Impact can provide global alerts to when a note is responded to, as I just mentioned, when KPIs turn red, and when KPI updates are due. And there's a number of other options out there, but I'll just highlight those few there. There's also an option called Send Broadcast Alert. And if something was really urgent, like that total gross profit, maybe I want to alert multiple people at the same time here. What I can do is go to this option, type in my message, maybe similar to that note that I just typed in. And here what I can do is I can actually select from a whole laundry list of recipients. I can even select everyone in the Spider Impact system here, or I can maybe isolate just a couple of users here or a group. And for now, I don't want to do that, so I'm just going to have to cancel out of here in a second. Another option that I can get into is under My Alerts here. So with this, there's an option called Add. And if I select that, what we'll see here is that I can set up alerts for a number of things. I can set up alerts for a particular score change, a KPI value, meaning the actual value itself, that when that gets changed, when notes are added. And I can also subscribe to a number of things like briefings, and I'll get into a little bit of that in a few minutes here. But for now, if I click away here, what we'll see is that I do have one alert defined. I've set it up for what I've deemed to be my most critical KPI, total gross profit, and I've set it up to alert me every week. Maybe I can set this up immediately if I want to get triggered immediately for problems. Might be a safer option there to be on top of things. But for now, what I've done, I've got this to go out weekly whenever the score change goes below a value of 3.33, meaning it dips into the red. Okay, lastly, Spider Impact helps automate the visualization of performance. Once the scorecard structure and data are loaded, strategy maps, dashboards, charts, and reports can be developed. And to illustrate a few examples, I'm going to click on strategy maps here on the far left, and I'm going to click on an org that has some things like that. I'll click on Mobile World and click Select. And I'll just quickly show an example of the Mobile World strategy map. I'll then select Dashboards, and I'll just leaf through a couple examples here. Towards the bottom is an option called Briefings. And Briefings is an illustration of where I can bring together all of the objects that I just showed you here in one location. And what I'm starting with here is that example of the PowerPoint slide that I showed you before with Mobile World. And here's an example of how that looks directly here in Spider Impact. So I brought that into the briefing, and we'll touch on a couple additional options here. So under options, what I can do is I can select an option called Publish or Subscribe. And I can select to be alerted whenever a change to this briefing has been made. And I can click that box, and at this point I can click Done. So if somebody goes in, manipulates this briefing, adds a slide, changes something, I would be alerted to that change here. I'll then select Done. I'm gonna go right back to options here and go to a different option called Send To. And here what I'm gonna do is see that I can dump this slide into a number of different formats, and I'm gonna select PDF. What I can do is I can download this briefing now, so there's an option to download it now. I can also go to Schedule Repeating. And you'll see here, I've actually got this set to be sent to myself every quarter on the first day of the quarter at 12 a.m. And this can be configured a number of different ways here, monthly and things like that, using the drop-down option here. So happy with the way that's constructed, I'll just select Cancel. Now, in lieu of running executive meetings with static data, as I started the presentation with, these briefings can be leveraged to run the meetings interactively. For example, I'll select Start in the top right. As each slide is reviewed, and you'll notice here, I'll just touch on this here, there's a nice drop-down arrow here where I can go to a particular slide directly, or I can click the forward icon, and I'm just gonna move to the second slide here. And as I'm moving along to something that we haven't looked at before here, this is an example of where I'm looking for those measures or KPIs that are in red or either downward trending. And let's just say I get to slide 2 as I'm presenting this, And lo and behold, I get extremely concerned. And there might be multiple people in the room that I'm presenting to that are all concerned about the fact that active trials is sitting in the red and it's all the way down to a value of 132. So instead of just merely moving along here, what I can do is click on active trials here by clicking on the name. And that will take me down directly to that KPI where it sits in the structure, which happens to be under sales. And what I can do now is get a full picture performance display of just that KPI. And I can see for most of 2020, things were operating in the green. And then for whatever reason, we started tanking towards the end of the year. And we'll notice that even January is not only in the red, but it's performing the worst out of all the months in the past year. So this could be something at this point now where we start dialoguing about it. I can start adding notes as I talked about earlier. Maybe I go to send broadcast alert if this is something I want to alert immediately to everybody who's not in the meeting at this time. So I can go through all those different options. But for now, all I'm going to do is once we've uncovered, talked about our problems here, I can go right back to the briefing in exactly the spot that I left off by clicking the option called Resume At in the top left there. Let's move ahead to the next slide here and see that we had another KPI that was of extreme importance to us called ad clicks. Another one of those instances where in the year 2020, performance was going down, 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 down. It was getting so bad that in the month of January, we decided to actually implement an initiative that spanned a total of 6 months. And as we work our way through the rest of time here, we'll see that through the help of this initiative, performance drastically improved. And it got to the point where we actually turned green for the first time in June for maybe a year and a half in the past year and a half here. And there's a lot of things that I can incorporate on this particular dashboard. I can bring together the chart itself where I can analyze that performance, hopefully see this nice V-shaped trend here. I can analyze the initiative itself to see those tasks that were created to help us achieve this. And then I can add in some notes here to fully explain what was going on, what the initiative helped accomplish here. Okay, switching back over to the PowerPoint. I'm just going to move ahead to the next slide here. And in summary, review what we've covered here. So Spider Impact helps automate all aspects of a performance management solution. It helps automate the entire organizational structure, the development of a scorecard structure, performance ownership and accountability, data entry and inclusion of multiple data sources, performance scoring with red, yellow, and green, communication about performance with notes and alerts, and last but not least, the visualization of performance.